Like that, we are live on the internet. How's it going?
Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to see you, and it's so clear this time. We, for everyone who doesn't know, we did this once before, and it didn't work. It was my fault. I screwed up, and
well, you say it worked for you. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah. It's like most of the experiences I've had with prior girlfriends. It worked for me, but not them. It was great for me, but it didn't end well for them. But yeah. So, Emma, can you come here for a second? But yeah, I want to get your name right here. Can you type in Geoff Dawson for me? Otherwise, people are going to be wondering why it says Anna.
That's my wife.
I figured.
How'd you get?
All better. Perfect. But so thank you for doing this again, despite my gross negligence last time. It was terrible. But so I think that the question I always have, because you are so deep into water safety, you've got the book, The Pool Safety Resource, which I have actually read.
Yeah.
You do the swim lessons starting at age 6 months and up, correct?
Yeah. I used to be in a.
You used to be. Go ahead.
Sorry, I used to be an ISR instructor.
Right.
I now teach independently. So I've been teaching 17 years now.
That's amazing. And how long have you been doing the pool fencing concurrently?
When I lost my job when was that? I was made redundant in 05, 06. I started the company, the Pool Safety Resource, and my own business, the Pool Safety Resource, in 2006. That's when I took the pool fencing.
So were you doing the swim lessons kind of on the side?
Yeah. I would run home from work 5 o'clock, get home 5:30, and do a couple of hours, which is a whole lot different now. When I'm in the season, I'm teaching 8 hours a day, 50 kids a day.
You are sure a slacker.
Well, I am this at the moment with the off season. I'm totally bored right now.
So what do you do in the off season?
Well, besides the fencing, which brings helps me feed the family,
Sure.
I do a lot of education. So the last couple of weeks, I started going into daycares, talking to kids between the ages of 3 and 6 about pool safety, really getting them to think about what they would do in an aquatic situation. And that's really interesting because I hear a lot of people coming out with rules around the pool. And I really only have 2 rules for kids around the pool, especially between the ages of 3 and 6. And there's maybe 3. But the first 2, first of all, whose permission do you need before you go near the pool? Mommy and daddy. And who should be watching you all the time you're in the pool? Mommy and daddy.
Right.
The other one, no running around the pool, is pretty much the standard that most kids can relate to. Yeah. But all the other stuff, to me, for kids, is mommy and daddy can take care of it. If they only remember those 2 rules, that's going to save lives in itself, because they're going to. I've had kids where my parents have turned around and tell me that they were walking away or they were looking at their device, and the kids are saying, "No, Mom, you watch me. So I know what you should be doing." So and that's great when you make the kids the police of their own pool. That's really cool.
That is really cool, and I like that a lot. I like the distillation down to 2 really core things, 2 rather than a long list of pool rules that no adult, let alone 4-year-old, could possibly ever remember. Yeah.
Just for the kids, those 2 rules is going to be really helpful.
So when you do the daycare sessions, do you have a curriculum you follow? How do you do that? Do you kind of?
I do. It's my self-developed curriculum.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I start by letting them tell me what they like about swimming, what their favorite things are about swimming. And I mean, it's difficult talking to kids about drowning because it's obviously a very sensitive subject, and difficult themes for them to imagine. So I let them do a lot of talking. But one of the ways I do it is I actually have a box full of stuffed animals. So I'll bring out different animals, and we'll talk about which ones like to fly, which one likes to hop, which one like to run, which ones like to swim, and so on. And then at the end of that, and I have about 10 of these, I'll bring out a fish. And then I'll say, well, I've got this big aquarium at home with a load of fish in it. What would happen if one of the fishes jumped up out of the aquarium and landed on the carpet? And then I'll let that, and they'll say, oh, he'll get trod on, he'll like the cat will eat it, and then they'll, some of them will come around and say, yeah, he'll die, he can't breathe, he needs to be in the water. And so we talk about fish having gills, and do we have gills? No, we don't have gills. And so that really gets them sort of engaged in what the concept of water is. And then the last one I bring out is a little boy clown, and I say, well, do you think this little boy clown knows how to swim? And invariably you get one little guy shouting out yes, somebody shouting no, and I'll sort of loop that back and I'll say, well, we don't know, do we? I mean, like you guys, and I asked them at the beginning who knows how to swim. I said, if he's gonna know how to swim, he maybe has to take swim lessons, he's got to practice a lot, and the more he practices, the better he's going to get. And this is almost verbatim because I do this all the time. And then I'll say, well, think about this one. I said, if he didn't know how to swim and he accidentally fell in the pool, what do you think's going to happen? And I let them come back with what their version is of. And sometimes he'll get eaten by a shark, but he'll drown, he'll die. And then I sort of supplement that with, yeah, and that's a really serious thing. You might have to call an ambulance, you might have to go to the hospital and see lots of doctors and nurses. And then from that point, we can transition the whole conversation into, well, even if he knows how to swim like you guys, it's important that we have some rules around the pool to keep you safe. And that's when I sort of say, well, what rules do you guys have around your pool to keep you safe? And that's when they come back with those, mommy and daddy must be watching, no running. And that's the great opportunity. Disney have produced I think it's a brilliant video with Timon and Pumbaa from The Lion King. It's called Safety Smart in the Water.
Okay.
You can get it on YouTube if you Google it or search it on YouTube. Timon and Pumbaa Safety Smart in the Water. It's a 10-minute video where they go through a lot of the ancillary rules and things that are going to keep you safe, like swimming with a buddy, learning to float, what to do if somebody in the water needs help. It's not perfect, and there's a couple of things I bring up there as well with the kids about. One of the things in the video is if they see somebody in the water who needs help, you can throw them a life preserver or a ring. And I was saying, for kids between 3 and 6, the best thing they can do is shout and scream for an adult or the lifeguard.
Right.
So, but it gets so that the whole thing lasts about half an hour, and it really gets the children involved and engaged in thinking about those aquatic situations.
I am simultaneously shocked and embarrassed that I don't know about that video.
It's brilliant. I've been showing it for 15, 16 years. I've been going to do these daycare talks for 15, 16 years. I used to show a video of a child looking after themselves, like you ones you see on YouTube where you see the little boy floating, and it actually freaked some of the kids out. So, a couple of the daycare said, yeah, well, we don't think we should show that, because they were getting really concerned for this little boy floating in the pool. So this one is a whole lot more entertaining, and the kids really relate to it. It being Disney, I mean, it's very well produced and very memorable. So I really recommend parents check that out as well.
That's really cool. Like I said, I can't believe I don't know about that, because I'm usually pretty up to date on all any pool safety thing that exists on the internet. So
and it is license free for educational purposes. So you don't have to worry about that if you're using it in that way.
That's really cool. Do you know Richard Specht with Respect? He's got a foundation called Respect the Water. He had a son named Reese, and his last name is Specht. So they have this Respect series, and it's respect kindness and respect the water. And his son fatally drowned, but I can't. He sent it to me. And I can't share it with anybody yet because it's still top secret. But he sent me a pilot for a cartoon show that he's having produced. They did a really good job on it, and one of the episodes is about water safety, and it came out really good. So I'm excited for that to go live, because it's a cartoon, and it was produced really well, and it's got this kind of neat character, and I'm pumped for it because he did a phenomenal job. So I'm excited to see him release that to the universe. So
that deals with not just his series deals not just with pool safety, but with other areas as well, are you saying?
Yeah. So he started out doing coloring books and educational stuff. It was kind of more about just being a nice person. He didn't want to get into water safety because he thought he was an example of what not to do, and he felt guilty about coming off as an expert on a topic that he considered himself a failure in. And I can say this because he said so on my podcast. But after a while, he kind of came around to the idea. Someone talked him into it eventually. But he made these cards that said, spread kindness or, respect kindness. I forget exactly. And you're supposed to give one, out to random people, and it kind of took off. And so, his thing has always been kind of broader than just water safety, but he does have a water safety episode, and it came out really good. He is obviously immersed in the topic, so he doesn't run into those kind of snafus that we see when people outside of our community try and make something, I was at the sheriff's department last year. They were making a water safety like coloring book, I guess, and the stuff they had was just terrible. The script they'd written, like the advice they were giving, it was painful.
And that's the trick. It's making it engaging and something recognizable. I mean, right. and that's why I love that Disney DVD, because you've already got buy-in when the kids see the characters they already know and love. Right. You're, okay, this is gonna. So you already get that attention to watch the movie in the first place. So yeah, and it's interesting though you say about how different people get into this whole business, and for me, it was luckily it wasn't out of any sort of tragedy. It was just a simple day when my son was. We've obviously got the pool in our home, and we put a pool fence around it. And I think they installed it too close to the edge of the pool. Mm-hmm. We know now. I mean, its code is 20 inches. I think this was 15, 16 inches off one part of the edge of the pool. And people ask me about code all the time, about why do we have it? Can I get it any closer? Mm-hmm. And I always relate this story with my son. Is I was there brushing the edge of the pool, cleaning the pool, and he came to help me. He's like 15, 16 months old. And as he's walking down the inside between the fence and the pool, his bottom bumped against one of the poles of the fence, and that's what's actually toppled him in. So, there are reasons why we install these fences at certain distances off the edge of the pool, not least so you can service the pool, but also, so for people have egress and are able to climb out the pool. And it just makes the whole thing a whole lot more comfortable to use as well. So just him falling into the pool at that point, I actually grabbed his leg before his feet went in, which was very lucky because he was wearing brand new sneakers, and his mum would have been really hacked off if I'd got his brand new sneakers wet. But at that point, I said, he's dripping wet from the top. And his mum says, well, that's it. We're just getting swim lessons. And, we obviously you can tell by my accent, we were fairly new to the States. We'd only been in the States 3 years. And
so you're not from Alabama?
No, not from Alabama.
Wow.
No, it's a misconception.
Yeah.
But so I was really skeptical about what swim lessons could bring to a child of that age, 15, 16 months. And but I said, okay, do what you got to do. And then when I realized what children are capable of at that age, especially when it comes to swimming, it really just changed my whole outlook. And that's when it was a couple of years later that I was in the pool with some friends, and Philip was doing his thing, swimming and floating and just having a good time. And their daughter was somewhat scared in the water and was quite anxious. And I was just holding her hand, and I said, well, let's go under the water together. And we went down, came up, and climbed out the pool. And my wife just turned to me and said, you'd be good at that. And that's how I looked online, found the company that could provide me with some training, and did a 6-week course. And and that was mainly just for me to do something more than my 9-to-5 job. And so the history is that it became my 9-to-5 job, and my son credits himself with my career,
as he should, right?
Yeah.
So, did your son have ISR?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that was the program he went through for 2 years, maybe. Was it 3 years? I can't remember, but 2 years definitely. And but the difference for me was instead of having him holding him in my arms and wondering how how do I let go? That big fear that parents have about him going under the water, and understanding how they interact with water and being able to let him enjoy it. And then as a parent, taking what he'd learned in the program and being able to build on that. I know for the first couple of years, I wasn't an instructor. So, it was really as a parent. And that, that's why we like parents to see what's going on, because once they see how resilient kids are in the water when they're able to swim, and the fact that getting their water in their eyes isn't an issue, that they can hold their breath, they don't swallow water generally, it just makes them stronger, and it makes them stronger as people. I can always remember just feeling how my son felt. He gained confidence as a little person, and you could see him walking a little bit taller, and that was a good parenting win for me.
I mean, because it is probably the first challenging, difficult thing that they've accomplished in their life, right? I mean, besides
exactly, it's the first time
walking, and
it's the first time you give them over to somebody else, to something that you as a parent don't teach them,
right?
Or it's the first time you're trusting them to somebody else. So as an instructor myself, that is a huge responsibility, and I spend a lot of time, working, making parents comfortable, because I'm always looking, as I'm watching the guy. I've been doing this so long that I know the kids are fine, even if they're crying. But I'm looking up and seeing how mom's reacting, because a lot of times, if mom's very anxious, the kids pick up on that. So if I'm able to help mom relax a little bit, and sometimes I'll be talking, and I say this to parents all the time, part of my teaching style is talking to the kids. And I say to the parents, he doesn't understand the bloody word I'm saying. I mean, they're not old enough, and I'm not expecting them to say, follow what I'm saying. They're reacting to the situation I'm putting them in. But what I'm doing is, by talking to the child, first they're hearing my voice and I'm calm, but more importantly, the parents are hearing what I'm looking at, seeing, and what I'm expecting, so that they can sort of follow along. And if the parents' anxiety comes down, they can be a much better support for their child in the pool. And it generally just makes things go a lot more smoothly overall, because children cry mainly because they're not feeling in control of the situation. And the quicker we can get those feelings of control back to a child, that's when the great things in the pool start to happen.
So for people who don't know, can you describe the curriculum, how it works, what it looks like?
Well, like most of these infant swim programs, we use short lessons, 10-minute lesson. I teach 4 days a week. Generally takes between 4 and 6 weeks of lessons. Every child is different. I teach a lot of special needs as well, and it's funny because we talk about special needs, and to me, special needs doesn't really exist in the pool, because every child is different. So I don't look as a child and put labels on them and sort of say, oh, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. I'm looking at what that child's telling me through their actions, through their emotional state. And I've had many kids, a couple last year, Down syndrome, who were blowing my regular abled kids out of the water. I mean, they were just having a blast and enjoying it. And you could just see that these guys were going to have a lifelong love of the pool and the water. And the great thing for me in that one is just the look on their parents' faces when they realize that they found something that their child, who is facing challenges, has found something that they are able to conquer and excel at. And that to me is just one of the great joys about what I do. So, yeah. So
what are you teaching a child who comes to you? They're doing 4 days a week for 6 weeks. What are they learning in those 4 to 6 weeks?
Well, I use the term self-reliance. I don't think anybody else uses that term, so that's the way I use. And I like that, because so a lot of people ask me, well, are you teaching them to survive, or are you teaching them to swim? And to me, the two things are one and the same, and you can encapsulate that in self-reliance. So by being able to, up to the first 12, maybe 13, 14 months, being able to flip and float on their back if they find themselves in the water accidentally, until help comes. So they're looking after themselves that way. And then beyond that, 14, 15 months, being able to swim face down in the water and get to a point of safety. So the step, the wall, or a parent's hand, And if they can't get there in that one breath, being able again to roll onto their back and float, to take a breath and breathe, and then flip on over and continue the swim. So a lot of people call that the swim, float, swim sequence. So not rocket science in itself, a lot of operant conditioning and stuff going on there, but it's down to the individual instructor how, there's so many different programs out there now, and I always recommend to parents, if you're looking into a program, number one most important thing to do is go and watch the individual instructor teach, because so many different labels, websites looking all flashy and all that, it all comes down to, are you comfortable with this individual working with your child in the pool? And I practically, on my registration, it basically says, have you come to watch me teach? And I recommend you certainly do so. Because people call me all the time and they ask me about, the same kind of questions you're asking, and I can give them my view and I'm all confident about it. I much prefer it when they're hearing from parents at the side of the pool what their experience has been, because you're going to get to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, because, it's not always, fun and games. The kids cry. Some of them, almost put me in therapy from the, and they present a challenge, and that's what's so interesting to me, is how do I break through to that individual child? And invariably, I've had a couple of kids where I've shook my head and think, this is never going to happen. And it happens a lot with girls, and
We lost you. Hello. We lost Geoff Dawson. Are you watching?
It just turned off.
Ah. Can you see me?
Yeah, you're still there.
Well, hey. So let's see if he comes back. You want to give him a call?
Try. I don't know if I have his number.
Technical difficulties.
Facebook.
I'm all alone. So there's a great shot of my pool table there. My pool table needs more Superman. There's not enough Superman figures on my pool table. And the Christmas tree, still there. I'm going to pretend that's from this year. It totally is. Mike's going to try and reconnect with Mr. Dawson.
He's texting me now.
Oh, he's texting Mike now. I like Geoff Dawson. I look at he does. Oh, there we go. Hey, you're back.
Yeah. I don't know if my my internet went out there.
I don't know, but you figured it out.
Yeah, it just came back. So hold on, let me see what's happening. Oh, I've got like so many different. Let's get rid of that. There we go. So sorry about that, everybody.
That's right. You were talking about girls in particular.
Yeah. So, and sometimes then just taking a break, and it was almost like they knew what to do. And it was all they had to do was go home and do it with their parents, and they had to feel back in control, because what they were rebelling against, in my mind, was they weren't feeling in control anymore. I was telling them what to do, or they felt they were being told what to do, and they hated that. And they said, "Just let me get on with it." And parents would come back and say, they're doing great. And so the thing is that every student of mine teaches me something, and that's what I love. Are we okay?
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, we're fine. So, it's interesting. You talked about the self-reliance, and I was talking to Corey yesterday from Orca Swim School, and she teaches adults how to swim.
Yeah.
And she said the primary thing that she teaches them is that you want the security, the skills, the safety to be within yourself and not reliant on something else.
Right.
So you're not, looking to a destination like the side of the pool or the shore at the beach. Your safety isn't at the shore or at the side of the pool. Your safety is within yourself and your own competency and your own skills. And
Yeah.
I thought I never heard it put quite that way, and I like that a lot. That was kind of a neat way of describing it. That you're not looking for some external thing for your safety. That you have it kind of contained within you. I like
and that makes perfect sense to me, because I am not a particularly strong swimmer. A lot of people think, oh, you must have gone through college and university. No, I was not a strong swimmer. And
Navy SEAL, MI6.
No, not that I could tell you now anyway.
Yeah.
But when I'm at the beach, I hate not being able to feel the sand underneath my toes when I'm in the ocean. Mm-hmm. I do not go out of my, I don't like lifting my feet off the floor, because I'm thinking next time I put them down, I won't be able to feel it. And so that's the kind of swimmer I am. Yeah. But I've taught a couple of adults to swim. It's a totally different game, if you like. I mean, one of the things I advise to adults who are learning to swim and is, when we look at children swimming, it's the same. Or when you look at Michael Phelps, it's all about posture. Because if you don't have the posture right, you ain't going anywhere. And that's what I mean by that is you got to get your head down. So I say to adults, get yourself a great pair of goggles. Because first thing we want to do is take away that face in the water issue of having water in your eyes. Now, for children, it's different, because you don't want to teach a child to swim with goggles, because they find themselves falling in and they don't have the goggles.
Right.
They'll tend to freak out. So, but for an adult, they're not going to really fall in accidentally. So I like teaching them to swim with their face down and glide across the pool. And it's all about that, without kicking, without moving the arms, just gliding across the pool from one side to the other. And once they've got that kind of posture going, that's when you can start throwing in the kicks and so on. But I think a lot of adults agree that floating on your back for an adult isn't as easy as it is for a child. And I know a lot of guys, myself included, who can't float without just doing a little bit of movement to keep themselves flat. But that flotation really is that, as that lady was saying, is key. Because if you feel like you can look after yourself anywhere, then that gives you the freedom to concentrate on the swim itself. If your primary concern is getting to the side, staying alive, getting the next breath, that's when your form breaks down and you're not concentrating on doing the learning.
Yeah, for adults, I think the first third, quarter, half, the first chunk of her curriculum has nothing to do with swimming at all, and it's all about learning what panicking feels like, kind of taking control of the panic, identifying what stage of panic you're at, and taking control over it.
That's interesting. Yeah,
because for them it's a lot more fear than it is the actual moving your arms and legs part. Right.
And I spend a lot of time. I mean, obviously, I gauge with an adult how what their fear and anxiety level is. So sometimes I'll take a student by the hands, and we're both wearing goggles, and then we'll just go down, and then we'll practice breathing. So the whole idea is you exhale out under the water and use that time when your face is out of the water to inhale. So we'll just do these exercises where they're standing in the pool or crouching, and we'll just go up and down, holding hands with eye contact, just feeling that rhythm of breathing. And then, like you're saying about struggling to get to the side of the pool, the whole purpose of swimming it's a sprint. It should be just like walking. You shouldn't get to the end of the pool and feel like you're out of breath. It should just be a normal physical exertion, so that you're not breathless and tired and your heart beat at 180. You should just be coming to the end of a walk when you get to the wall.
Sure, that makes sense. So you talked about doing the daycare classes, and obviously you're big about education. What's the biggest challenge you see in trying to raise pool safety, water safety awareness in the community locally and broader?
Well, and that's maybe one of my, when I look at the drowning prevention sort of mantra, it's like not one more, like trying to end it and not more. And to me, we can't look at it like a cure. There is no cure. There is, because drowning in itself is it's not, you can't catch it. It just happens. So every day, more and more children are being born. We've got more first-time moms. more and more people coming into the community from outside who, being in Florida, are not familiar with Florida's risks that we're exposed to. So it's always going to be an ongoing educational process, so and that's where I like, I applaud everybody at the, yourself at this high level where we're getting out these big high level messages. That I just prefer my niche of being in the community. Pretty much everybody knows who I am, so for me to be able to address this on a community level and sort of say, this is my tribe, this is who I'm trying to protect, it affects me very deeply when I hear about something in my own area of, man, I missed that and so on. But that's the challenge, is that you've got to stay consistent. So yeah, it's not, there is no vaccine for drowning.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense when you can to focus on a community, because the results are a little more quantifiable. You can probably measure your impact a little better, right?
Yeah, and not only that, it's every community has different risks.
Right.
I mean, we look at Florida, we've got we got so many pools at home. That's our number one risk.
Yeah.
You go up north and you've got lakes and rivers where people go, and then you've got ice, drowning, and all those other kind of risks, and boating and those kind of. I mean, we have that as well, but it's good to be able to focus on what's impacting your own community. And again, I think there's just so much space for people to, there's so many swim instructors in our areas, and that's great, because we need a lot of people at the base level doing this community work rather than everybody at the top. So just dictating down what this is what we need to do, and that's why I like being my own boss and just I like looking at what other people are doing and saying, oh, I like that. I mean, we talk about water watchers, how those have caught on, water watcher tags. So it's being able to go out with the sheriff and be part of community events. It's rewarding, and it really does make a difference at this level.
So, obviously you focused on the community, but it seems like the book you wrote was a little bit more broader focused. Obviously that book, is applicable to people, not just in Orlando, but, across the country and internationally. So what was the motivation for the book?
Well, I've been doing the whole business. I published the book, I think it was 2011. So, and that was really, I had all these thoughts going on in my head about, oh, this applies here and that applies there. And for me, besides writing the book, it was just a way of getting things down in a clear way for myself. But, parents were asking me from all sorts of different areas how they can, make things safer. One thing we haven't talked about was I actually do for foster parents in Florida, and actually in some of the other states as well. I actually recorded a video with the University of South Florida and the Center for Wellness, which when you're doing your foster parent certification, I do a video on pool safety, and they watch that video and that gives them that certificate to pass their pool safety. And that, I think, came out of the book that they'd seen that I'd written the book, and just trying to encapsulate the overall knowledge. It doesn't, I think that some of it's outdated now, and there's obviously new technology coming along. But, we were talking about alarms earlier. But yeah, it just gave me a chance to put something in a concise format.
No, it makes sense. And then, kind of create some credibility for you. If anybody says, well, why should I trust this guy? You can say, well, I literally wrote the book on pool safety.
Yeah. And there's a couple of things. One of the things it helped me quantify was at the beginning of the book. Obviously, we have to look at the problem, and people. I was asking myself, well, how do I understand to myself why children drown? And I came up with this concept. When we talk about layers of protection. I think most people are familiar with layers of protection now. And I look at each one of those layers as if we were having in a lottery. And if you think of when you buy a lottery ticket, you select your numbers. And when we think of a drowning happening, if you think of each one of those layers you have in place as one of those lottery numbers. So supervision is a lottery number. The fences, a different number. The alarms, another number. I remember the Florida lottery went from 5 numbers to 6 numbers. And that exponentially increased the odds of you not winning.
Yeah.
And that's the idea of the layers of protection. We want to create a lottery with the more layers, the more balls we have in the bag, the more of those balls have to come up with your number on it for you to lose in terms of drowning. So that's, I kind of like that analogy of it's drowning is the lottery you really just don't want to win. And the more balls you can put in the bag, the less chance that is going to happen. And that's why I really subscribe to the layers of protection analogy.
Yeah, I love that analogy, that metaphor. It makes perfect sense. I'd never heard it before, obviously, until you described it to me, probably because you invented it. So that makes good sense.
Yeah.
And it makes, it really kind of drives the point home. I recently heard another model, another, kind of visualization called the Swiss cheese theory. And the idea being that if you've got these stacks of Swiss cheese, they've got holes in them. In order for a tragedy to occur, all the holes have to line up.
Mm-hmm.
So the more layers of cheese you got, obviously the more likely it is that, there's going to be a blockage in one of the spots, right?
Yes.
And you got to have a straight, view from top to bottom in order for, something bad.
They have to get through every layer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
each piece of cheese is I get that.
It's another layer, right? It's kind of it's kind of a neat idea. But yeah, the lottery, the Swiss cheese, the idea is the same. That the more layers of protection you have in place, parent supervision, high locks in all the doors and windows, a pool safety fence between the home and the pool, swim instruction, the child knowing how to swim, some kind of alarm, worn on the kid, one in the pool, and then finally CPR if all doesn't go well. You have to get through all those. So
going back to what we're talking about supervision though, and I get this question a lot as well, is because we think about supervision. Well, I think about it in 2 ways. First of all, we have when the pool is closed, because when you're just going about your normal daily business, 100% supervision, which we talk about, is impossible. You've got 2 kids, one needs a diaper changed, the phone rings, package at the door. Right. So supervision to me, when the pool is closed and you're not near the pool, is totally different. And I don't like to think of it purely as supervision, but managing the environment that you're in. Sure. Now, we also talk about if the child is missing, check the pool first. But I would say, take it back a step and think your kid's playing in the family room that's got a sliding glass door that leads out to the pool. 2 things we can do there. First, manage the environment, make sure that door is locked. Secondly, and this is more long-term, you could actually inhibit the view of the child to the pool. What makes that child want to get up and go out? Maybe there's a memory of having just been in the pool, wanting to go back. Maybe they're looking out and they see one of their toys floating in the pool, or an animal on the deck. If you can draw the curtains, draw the blinds, even put some opaque materials, which at the child's level just obliterates that view, you're inhibiting that thought process of why a child would even think about wanting to go out there in the first place. Potentially, it's another layer.
Sure.
So that sort of managing the environment to me rolls into that supervision. It's thinking ahead, not just being in the moment. So because we know children are growing. What we did yesterday doesn't always apply, that they're getting stronger, faster, smarter. So a problem they couldn't solve yesterday, tomorrow they might be able to unlatch that lock and so on. So you've always got to be that few steps ahead. And again, that's supervision. Doesn't apply to just being watching them eyes on. It applies to where are they going in the next couple of weeks. And that's why I like it when parents call me when they say we need a pool fence. I said, well, how old is your child? Is it 4 months? I say, that's great. We got a little bit of time, but it makes sense to get this in now before the child needs it. But then Obviously then supervision when the kids are in the pool, that's a totally different situation. So when the pool is open, that's when we're talking about 100% supervision and things like the water watcher tags that we've talked about before as well. So that's how I differentiate supervision.
So for anyone who doesn't know, how the water watcher tags work is someone is assigned responsibility over the pool. There's one. Look at that. That's a water watcher tag.
Is it backwards?
No, it's
or
perfect.
Is it just me?
It's just right.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah, someone wears something like that. They sit directly poolside, and for 10, 15 minutes, they are the sole lifeguard of the pool. They're watching all the kids. They're not on their phone. They don't talk to anybody. They have, sole duty over the pool environment. And then, 10 minutes up, 15 minutes up, whatever it is, they tap out. Someone else, takes their place, and you do this rotation. So that way, there's always somebody for sure watching the pool, because there's this phenomenon that happens when you have a lot of people around the pool at a pool party, whatever it is. There's a psychological term actually called diffusion of responsibility, where you let your guard down when you think other people are doing what you would be doing. And studies have shown a pool is actually safer with just one mom watching all the kids than it is if you've got a bunch of adults, because everyone simultaneously lets their guard down. So this water watcher idea kind of battles that natural psychological phenomenon and makes sure that there's always somebody watching the pool.
Yeah, I haven't heard it quantified like that, but that makes total sense to me.
Yeah. So you mentioned alarms, which we did talk about a little bit before we got started. And you were saying you always tell people to make sure they have a good return policy.
Yeah. I mean, that's especially the in-pool alarms that are designed to detect a falling. The issue I have with them, and if you look at my name of my company, the Pool Safety Resource, it would make a perfect sense for me to be able to sell alarms and offer those. And I've tried when I started. The issue I was finding was that it seems to me that some alarms work better in some pool environments than others. And we have all these different shaped pools, different depth of pools. We have pools with hot tubs that empty into the pool and create a fountain or a waterfall. And so even when you read the manufacturer's instructions on using it, these alarms generally rely on subsurface waves, which take, depending on where you put the alarm, can take 15, 20 seconds to reach the alarm. So if we have a submersion, you're already 20 seconds behind the clock before the alarm goes off. Now, when I tried to start selling these, I one situation remember very clearly. We put the alarm in. You take a 2-gallon gas can, fill it with water, drop it in, test it, and then you set the what's the word? How sensitive it is. And so the trick is getting it sensitive enough to detect the fall in, but not so sensitive enough that it doesn't go off at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And I would get these calls from this guy saying, the alarm went off again at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I said, well, yeah, okay. So I came out, tested it again, reset it. And that's the thing, when you're testing them, you have to wait for the pool to totally calm down again. So it takes so long to set and reset and retest. And for me, it was just, for parents, one thing this guy said to me, says, Geoff, I'm just going to switch it off at night and I'll switch it on again in the morning. And then that to me was just like, what's the point? You're not, if that is no layer of protection, it's, if that's the way you've got to use the layer, it's not going to be helpful. So my advice to him was like, let's return it and think of something else. And that's the key about layers of protection. I mean, going back to the layers, the most effective layers are the ones which don't get in the way of the lifestyle. When a layer interrupts your lifestyle, that's the one which breaks down first. So, for example, we talk about alarms on doors and windows. And the number of times, we know in Florida, pool code allows for you not to have a pool fence if you have alarms on all your doors and windows. Well, a lot of times, if you're an elderly couple and putting the fence in the pool in, that kind of works. And I'm sure that's why the code is written like that. But then they sell the house and then a family move in and they'll call me, and I'll see the alarm on the wall, and of course it's got no batteries in it, because
Right.
the first thing that happens is people, especially at times like this when the weather's so nice, we want to open the doors and let the air in and out. So, and you can't do that with an alarm door. So if that alarm is just a good example of something, if it doesn't fit the lifestyle, it's going to get disabled, it's going to get taken away. And one way I do like door alarms, because I say I wouldn't put a door alarm on the door that you use most. If you've got a bathroom which is around the back, you can't see it, that is seldom used, that is the perfect place for a door alarm. Because you're watching TV, the kids are off exploring, somebody came into the bathroom from the pool, didn't lock it from one side or the other, gets left unlocked, that's when they accidentally get out. And that's when you want to know about it. So that is a perfect opportunity for a door alarm. So, different layers in different places makes perfect sense. And that's the trick, is understanding your lifestyle and matching the layers you choose to match your lifestyle.
I really like that advice about the door alarm by the bathroom door. I've got one of those bathroom doors, at least to the pool at my house. And you're right, that is a perfect spot for a pool alarm. I was telling you before, and I tell this story all the time, that when I was little, we had one of those in-ground pool alarms, and my mom had just laid my brother down for a nap, just got him to sleep. The alarm went off, and we had a canal in the back of my house, and she went to the pool, yanked it out of the pool, and chucked it into the canal, where it lived forever. And that was the end of us using pool alarms. And I think that's the experience a lot of people have, right?
You now use it as a fish finder.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, they're great in that they kind of break the silence of a drowning, but the downside is that they go off, at inappropriate times a lot. They take a long time to go off if they do, and I like, and we've talked about this as well, the safety turtle alarm worn on the wrist.
Yeah.
Those are really nice because they protect the child, not the pool. The downside of that is the child has to wear it all the time, but I mean.
Well, and that's the thing, and that goes back first to that. How much does it? You can't expect a child living in a home with a pool to wear that 24/7 and to put it on and off. But what you can do is if you've got grandma and grandpa and you're going to go visit them for Thanksgiving, and they have a pool but they haven't got the fence around it because you only visit once a year, that is the perfect opportunity to use something like the safety turtle. Or you're having a big party where you were saying before, you've got all these people around, and you've got 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, and they're having fun, and there's a water watcher, but you've also got a 2-year-old toddling around. Put the safety turtle on, that's another layer. It doesn't, it just, I can't remember exactly the cost. They're $150, $200. I don't remember now.
Yeah.
But the fact that it goes everywhere they go, and it's a great additional layer for my money.
I like it on a boat. It can come with a battery pack. I think on a boat it's a really cool thing.
Yeah. That's So
you've got the different stuff you've going on. You've got the lessons. You've got the book. You've got the pool fence. It's obviously you're invested in this. Of all the different things you do, what makes you the happiest?
I mean, swim lessons are obviously. I mean, it's the time. Otherwise, I'm just this sad middle-aged man going around drilling holes. And I say I've been out the pool now since October, was when my season ended last year, and March is when I get back in the pool, and I already have about 200 registrations to get back in, so I'm very excited to get swimming. But it almost feels like I go through withdrawal symptoms when I'm not teaching. It's fun. We talk about community again. It's fun to go to the grocery store and bump into kids who are recent students, older students, and so on, and see on Facebook where ex-students of mine are going to do stroke lessons and are breaking records and making national team, having done it so long now. So. And my big hope now is that I'll be sat there in my, excuse me for saying this, but in my wheelchair at the end of my life, singing, and watching the Olympics and going, honey, that's one of mine. And that's what would bring me the most joy, I think, is just seeing those kids loving the water.
That's fantastic. So before we wrap up, any last thing you want to let people know about? Any parting wisdom? British joke?
No, I don't. people ask me all the time, when the kids are growing, and because I do both the fences and swimming lessons, which would you buy first? And it's if you've got a pool in the house, which would you buy first? And for me, if you've got a 14-month-old or 12-month, 14-month-old, I'd really say get the fence first. The main object, if it's really a budget issue, and it might be a timing issue in terms of season as well. But for my money, at that age, a fence is so effective at stopping them even getting to the pool. That's what I would do first. Swim lessons, absolutely important once we get past that first year, 15, 16 months, as they're able to sort of walk around and be, start solving problems and get themselves to the pool. But yeah, that's my big thing, is get that pool fence, especially this time of the year. As I said before, this is the time when we let those closed and locked doors get thrown open, and we let the nice cool air in. We enjoy the deck, and that's when we take them one step closer to the pool without really realizing it.
I agree 100%. And so where can people find Geoff Dawson at the Pool Safety Resource?
Well, I forgot about that. I'm teaching, and I live and teach in the north of Orlando in a little city called Longwood, 32750. You can find me on Facebook. That's all you can find me on, actually. I don't do Twitter or anything like that, so just Facebook. And if you can live with my political tweets as well, then that's fine. And then the Pool Safety Resource. If you just take the first letters of that, that's TPSRFLforFlorida.com. Will get you to my website. And we were talking about the book and so on. I get calls. I had a lady call me from Tampa yesterday, and I've had calls from all over. And I love it when people call me and ask me questions, which I can't personally solve, but I can give the advice. So if anybody's got a question, then I love talking about it. I always if I'm giving somebody advice, I always ask them to call me back and let me know if it how it worked. I think Click and Clack, the Tapper brothers, actually do that on their radio show about cars.
Nice.
Do you listen to that?
I do not know.
All right, maybe someone will know. They have a show called Car Talk, and people call in with their car problems. So anyway, that's.
So is it your Facebook personally, or is it a Facebook page for the Pool Safety?
I do have a business one, but I rarely use it. I'll sometimes put out a promoted post on it, but usually it's through my personal one. But
perfect.
Yeah, as I say, mostly I like getting out in the community, as I said, talking face to face. And if somebody sends me an instant message asking about it, I'll invariably just send them my phone number and say, call me, because you can't cover this in a chat. And so it's better to talk.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Geoff. Thanks for doing this again. Because I screwed up royally last time because I suck at everything I do. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I really do. And
it's my pleasure.
And I like that we didn't cover much of the same stuff, so I didn't get bored.
No, actually, it was a totally different conversation, wasn't it?
Imagine that, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So thanks,
Cool.
Geoff. I do appreciate it, and
right.
Hopefully we'll do it again soon. And I hope to see you soon.
All right. Enjoy NDPA.
I will. I'll be in April. Are you going?
No.
Oh,
okay. Again, it's well. First of all, it's because I'm in the pool teaching.
Yeah, it's right in the middle of your season.
Yeah. Next time it gets closer to Florida, maybe.
It's on my birthday this time, so I'm going.
And
for
you're
my
doing
birthday.
And you're doing a podcast during that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a live podcast on stage at the NDPA.
Very cool.
I'll
see if I can tune in for that.
You should. Right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Geoff. Bye.
Bye. Bye.